Hey folks, how's it going? It's Game Webcam. Welcome back to another episode of The Review, a series where we judge games based on how good or crappy they are. This episode of The Review, we will be looking at the game Nico's Nextbots. Created by a developer named Nico Patty, this is a game that attempts to recreate the infamous Nextbots trend on Garry's mod into Roblox. If you don't know what Nextbots are, I explained them in my previous review episode where I reviewed another Nextbots game, which you can watch in the top right corner. But the basic premise is that they are images of memes or creepypastas that will persistently chase you and try to kill you. Now, unlike Goofy Runners, the previous game I went over, Nico's Nextbots came a bit later and is the more popular of the two, considering it averages more concurrent players than Goofy Runners. On first glance, Nico's Nextbots takes a step up in terms of the graphics, with more in-depth textures, meshes, lighting, and post-processing. Goofy Runners puts an emphasis on using progression throughout its game through the use of levels, while Nico's Nextbots only uses a couple of maps and is survival-based, using time survived as a metric of scoring. Goofy Runners also has bits of storytelling in it, while Nico's Nextbots doesn't have a story. Both match their usage of modern memes to reflect the Gmod counterparts and use TikTok to market their games. Nico's movement is more sophisticated than Goofy Runners, allowing you to walk, crouch, sprint jump, and run through doors in addition to the sprinting and sliding it has to offer. Plus, Nico's Nextbots updates much more frequently, constantly fixing and adding new Nextbots and features to the game. Heck, by the time this review comes out, I'm pretty sure Nico will have unleashed a wave of updates to make the game more in-depth than it already is. It seems like Nico works around the clock to update the game at a quick pace. Now, that's a quick comparison of Nico's Nextbots and Goofy Runners. There are probably plenty more similarities and differences, but at the end of the day, each game has their merits and it would be unfair to say that one is superior over the other. Before continuing with Nico's Nextbots, as I mentioned before, this game updates very often. I don't know how well this review is going to age, but I waited until I felt like the game was complete enough to make this review. For the most part, Nico's Nextbots is worked on by one developer. However, it does have assistance from two other developers who are part of a group called Nico Stu, short for Nico Studio. Jasper is credited for scripting, probably is someone who fixes bugs and some assistive scripting. Number 1 Riker is known to assist in the map making and help optimize and fine-tune the game by some presumable playtesting. Nico's Nextbots is a lot more faithful to Gmod, and there is a lot more parody to Gmod in several aspects. The main map that the game uses is based off a real Gmod map called GM_mall parking. However, it is clear that a couple of tweaks are made to the map and that the map is not going to be recreated one-to-one. However, I would expect that the map is going to be expanded further in future updates to probably include additional features from the original Gmod map. This map is where you're going to be spawning and where you'll encounter most of the Nextbots. In the past few weeks, this map has expanded to be a pretty in-depth map, including hallways and vents you can climb in. In the parking lot areas, there are 2 tunnels that include metal doors that can prevent Nextbots and other players from going through. Inside the tunnel areas contain switch boxes that allow you to change which end of the area is open, which is very useful in being able to get from one area to another in a shorter amount of time. Though it does open up room for betrayal, so someone can just prevent you from going in the room and let you get killed by a Nextbot. You'll also find radios that are scattered across the map, each of them playing different songs. Most of the music you'll hear in this game is composed and produced by Nico Patty himself, which just goes to show the amount of effort this guy puts into this game. Though there are 1 or 2 tracks in this game that do use music from other artists. I do wish an option could be added in the settings that allows us to toggle whether the original music could be played or some royalty-free music, just so that we don't have to worry about the risk of copyright. Fortunately, you can still hit up the dance club without the risk of a copyright strike, so for the most part, that's good enough for me. If you go into one of the parking lots and take the elevator of the lowest floor, you could actually switch to the backrooms map. This is a slightly smaller map and you'll be dealing with different Nextbots in this area. However, just because there are less Nextbots in this area doesn't mean that you'll have a lower risk of dying. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too big of a fan of this design of the backrooms. I liked how asymmetrical and random the backrooms were in Goofy Runners, and when taking a look at the backrooms in Nico's Nextbots, the rooms feel too symmetrical to truly encapsulate the chaotic nature of the backrooms. I don't mind if there are some areas where a pattern is present, but it would be nice to have some of that randomness and chaos in a possible revision or expansion of the map. To get back to the parking mall, you could just simply take the elevator back to return. I would describe what Nextbots this game has to offer, however, this game changes the Nextbots routinely. Play this game one day and play it the next, you'll realize that some of the Nextbots have been swapped out for new ones. This is done intentionally to keep the game fresh and making you want to revisit the game. If you play the game long enough, you'll actually find a developer who will join your game to swap out the Nextbots to the new ones. It's actually how I met Nico Patty. The Nextbots that are chosen are loosely based off of suggestions made by the community. In their Discord, there is a text channel that allows you to suggest a Nextbot that you'd like to see in the game. In addition, the look and the movement of the Nextbots in this game match much more closely of their Gmod counterpart, having that smoothness the original Gmod Nextbots have. In addition, Nextbots in this game move faster, which means that if you want to be able to outrun the Nextbots, you'll need to rely on sprint jumping and know your way around the map to maneuver them. You can B-hop and make your character travel faster speeds, but this did recently get nerfed and you'll have to be more precise with the timing to get a similar effect. The AI of the Nextbots is fairly decent and know their way around the map, but sometimes I do encounter Nextbots that screw up their pathfinding and get stuck. When a Nextbot is stuck for too long, they usually respawn somewhere else and start fresh. While running, you can also smash through doors to open them. Now, this is not a vanilla mechanic in Gmod, but rather comes from a parkour mod that is featured in TikToks as it allows the player to move faster. This mechanic is quite useful, especially if you are in some of the tighter spaces of the map and you quickly need to get out of those areas. There are situations where the amount of Nextbots can become overwhelming, even if you know how to effectively run from them, which is why there are several safe zones scattered throughout the map. When inside a safe zone, you cannot be killed by Nextbots and they will not chase you. However, there are a couple of glitchy safe zones where the Nextbots will still chase you even though you are in a safe zone. I imagine this will be fixed, but I still have to point this out. Safe zones also act as your spawn points. When you die or start out the game, you will spawn in a safe zone to ensure that you will not be spawned killed by a Nextbot. There are about 4 safe zones in the mall park map and only 1 safe zone in the backrooms, which is a bit of a challenge to find, so good luck on finding that safe room. The last feature that I want to talk about is the time survived. As I said earlier, this is the game's method of scoring, and the longer you survive, the higher your time goes up and the better score you have. This timer will stop counting if you are in a safe zone or you stay in one spot for too long. Leaving a safe zone and moving just enough will allow the timer to continue going up. Alongside your current time survived, you have your personal best, which is something that you could use to flex on other players. As I recorded this, I have a personal best of almost 5,000 seconds, but to put it into perspective, this record is 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 27 seconds. And the only reason why I died on this record attempt is because an exploiter actually went out of their way and killed me. I'm hoping to try and break this record, but it definitely will be a bit before I can approach this time again, especially because the game has gotten a bit more difficult since then. So if you are looking for a goal to accomplish in this game, look no further than the time survived system. Now, there's only one issue that I have with this game, and that is performance. Now, I love the graphics and amount of visual detail in this game. I mean, for a Roblox game, these graphics are pretty good, and heck, I would say that these graphics look as good, if not better, than the Gmod counterpart. However, when I was playing this game on Linux, I started coming across some pretty major lag in this game once I explored enough of the map. I'll admit that most of the performance issues were because of Wine having a hard time handling the intense graphics. I did play this natively on Windows, and even in 4K, I came across no performance issues. One reason why this is such a big deal is because if you play this game at a lower frame rate, it does have an impact on the movement system. I noticed that on a lower frame rate, I couldn't really sprint jump because the movement system wouldn't register my jumps. As a result, I would often get caught by the Nextbots because they were moving faster than me. In addition, I think it is critical that a game should be as accessible as possible. If you don't have the proper specs to play this game, you are either going to have a degraded experience or you won't be able to play at all. And I get that the developers behind this game take optimization seriously, as there are entire updates dedicated to optimizing the game and making it less laggy. However, considering that the developers are going to constantly expand the map, possibly make new maps, and also continue to add in new features, this is an issue that is slowly going to get worse. For example, it wouldn't be the end of the world if there are settings that allow for some of the graphics to be compromised, if that were to mean that the game all of a sudden becomes more playable. The implementation of a level of detail system would be beneficial for larger scale maps. Culling certain areas of a map would be quite useful if I am not in that area, very useful for indoorsy maps. Considering how often the game updates, I hope the developers of this game have a plan on how they're going to address long-term issues such as performance. To briefly talk about microtransactions, there are not that many in this game. The only microtransactions in this game are donations, which you can buy if you want to support the developers, which I have no issue with. In fact, I recommend you guys actually donate to this game for the amount of effort that is put into this game. Now, when I played this game with Josie, the original creator of the Roview, there are a couple of disagreements that we ran into. One comment that I heard from them is that there's almost no sense of progression in this game, and that's because we finished playing Goofy Runners when we played in Nico's Nextbots. Well, as I said earlier, Nico's Nextbots is not progression based, but rather survival based, which means the objective is to survive for as long as possible, not progress to different areas of the map. In addition, they also mentioned that the game's charm wears off after a bit. Well, if you only play this game just for the scare factor or seeing how long you can survive, this game is going to wear on you if you decide to play longer sessions. But for starters, this game does change the Nextbots regularly and updates at a fast pace. So while you may get bored of the game, it's always good to play other games in the meantime and come back to check on the game in a couple of days. You'll get a different experience, it'll be like having a whole new session. Another thing is that the game also has a bit of a social aspect. You see, this game's safe zones don't just have a functional purpose, but they also have a social purpose as well. Heck, that's why one of the game's thumbnails is captioned Safe Room Hangout Simulator. Considering this game has voice chat enabled, you can turn on voice chat and chat with other players as you are playing the game, as long as you have the voice chat feature, of course. However, if you don't have a microphone and you can't speak, it's always fun hearing other players scream or be scared when playing this game. This game is about having fun, and I guarantee you'll have more fun playing this game if you meet and socialize with some of the other players. The final critique that I've heard from Josie, and this is probably a critique I will hear from you guys, is that because of how inspired this game is from Gmod, it should deserve a lower rating. Now, it's quite common to see Roblox players hating on developers because they decide to follow trends or recreate some of their favorite games on Roblox. Now, I don't mind if a developer is inspired from a trend and wants to use it to create a game. But if a developer is going to be utilizing a trend, they better do it well. If they recreate the game, they should also get permission from the original developers to make the spin-off. If a developer is only using a trend or another game mode to cash in or try to make a quick buck, I will point this out and offer a valid reason to give the game a lower rating. You could argue that this might be the case for Goofy Runners, but I don't think this is the case for Nico's Nextbots. From playing this game, I can tell that there was plenty of love and care that went into this game. It looks fairly polished and has a good amount of effort put into it. At this point, don't hate the devs just because they were able to make a good quality game from this trend. But something to keep in mind, I am the host of this Review series, not Josie. While I will take their comments and critiques into consideration, I have the final say in making a review. After all, reviews are my opinions on a game, and if they have a problem with it, they can revive their series and make their own episodes. Josie gave this game a 4, and it's clear that they prefer Goofy Runners and the progressive design behind it. However, after playing both of these games, I enjoy playing Nico's Nextbots a little more. So, for my final rating, I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. The game does a great job for being more faithful to its Gmod counterpart and is a fun game to play with friends. If you like horror games, I recommend this as one of the more casual games you should play. Even though the game is still a work in progress, it is a pretty solid game. If the game manages to address the performance issues, add more maps, and the ability to add custom Nextbots in the future, I might do a Redux review for this game, and this game could be a contender for a 9 or even a 10. This is a respectable game, and I think the player base and support it has is well deserved. So, is there a game that you want me to check out and make a review on? Well, leave a comment down below and I might consider it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. This is Game Webcam, and take care.